Reddit, what's the loneliest thing you've done? When I was in elementary school and high school, I was bullied horribly. When I was about 13, the kids in my class invited me over to go for milkshakes and fries to celebrate the first day of Christmas break. I excitedly told my parents, and they were so happy for me. It seemed like I was finally making friends. Needless to say, they all stood me up. I was too scared to go home and tell my parents that once again I had fallen for their lies, so I stayed out by myself for a couple of hours, ate fries and drank a milkshake, and felt so alone. Obviously a horrible way to start Christmas break. For me it was when I moved my fish from the kitchen into my living room for company. My goldfish are great. Sometimes I get drunk and yell at them, but in the morning it's as if they don't even remember. Google things to do by yourself on Christmas. 1. Jerk off. 2. Eat. 3. Jerk off. 4. Get high. 5. Eat while jerking off. 6. Get sloppy drunk. 7. Try to jerk off. 8. Fall asleep with your dong in your hand. 9. Dial your ex's number on your phone and hover your thumb over the call button before chickening out. 10. Cry and jerk off. Create single player rules to a board game. Basically my past 5 years have been pretty much alone. I go out and meet people but we never end up hanging out. I can chat people up and be funny and get phone numbers at bars. I call these people the weekend or the next weekend to hang out and it never precipitates into anything. I guess when people sober up they realize it might be awkward going out to get drinks with a complete stranger. Sometimes I pretend I am texting. Most of the time I don't even turn on my phone, I just swipe around on the black screen. When I came back from Iraq in 2005, I had been over there for well over a year. Flew all the way back to Germany and got to Frankfurt late, midnight. We jumped on a bus and drove to the base we lived on, and it was snowing outside. They herded us all into this gym and we stood there on the basketball court in formation and they released everyone to their families. I remember standing there watching all these people, who were my only family, go to their real families and leave. I didn't have anyone there. I just turned around, picked up my ruck and walked the 2 miles back to my barracks room. When I got there, it was completely empty, save for a bed and a 6-pack of beer in the fridge. Someone was thinking ahead. I popped open a beer, sat on the bed, and felt like I was supposed to be happy, but I was more lonely than I'd ever been. That feeling never went away. My neighbor was having a Super Bowl 5 different kinds of chili party but did not directly invite me and I was too anxious to just go. So I picked up Wendy's chili and ate it in my car, in the Wendy's parking lot, and waited until the Super Bowl was over before going home. I won 2 free movie and drinks and popcorn and ended up watching 2 different movies one after the other. The ticket stub lady was looking at me like an Ebola patient. Selling our house after my wife died. Walking through the empty rooms the night before the closing was so sad and final. When I started high school I wasn't really friends with anybody. I knew a few guys from middle school but that was about it. My sister and her friends who knew me were in grade 12 and went to the same school, so for the first month of school I didn't have anyone to eat lunch with and I didn't want to sit alone in the cafeteria and then have my sister see I have no friends. She would no doubt worryingly tell my parents and I didn't want them to be concerned about my inability to make friends. So I started eating my lunch in the washroom stall and then moved to secretly eating my lunch in the library. After about a month, I decided to go to the lunchroom because my teacher let us off early, like 10 minutes before lunch bell. I figured I could go sit and eat my lunch quick before people got there. As I was eating, these black guys who were in my gym class came and sat next to me. It was their usual table. They lived in what you could call a hood in my city, although we don't really have a hood, just a place where a lot of low-income families lived. And then soon the entire row filled up with guys from that hood and they basically went on usual making jokes. They knew I was there and even though I wasn't talking ally they involved me. I ate lunch with them every day for the next 2 years after that. During a long stretch of being single, I went to a strip club on Valentine's Day. All my friends had something going on and I didn't want to be alone. One of the strippers gave me a kiss on the cheek. It left a big red lipstick mark on my face and she whispered in my ear, "Hope that doesn't get you in trouble." Yeah, right. If I had someone at home who cared about random lipstick on my face, do you think I would be at a strip club by myself on Valentine's Day? Ended up going home, getting blackout drunk by myself and trash talked young kids on Call of Duty. In middle high school I legitimately ate lunch alone in bathroom stalls a few times when I had no one to eat with but didn't want anyone to know. I wasn't disliked or bullied, just really shy and basically totally unwilling to make the first move in friendships ever. When I found out that my wife was cheating on me and I was laying on the kitchen floor crying, looking through my phone for someone to call and realized that no one was a good enough friend or family member to call when the chips were down. I once walked into Dairy Queen wanting a sundae, not knowing if I wanted a strawberry or chocolate. I compromised, was a little fat butt, and got both. When the girl handed the sundaes to me she asked if I wanted 1 spoon or 2. I told her, 2 please, it's not like they're both for me. She laughed. I went home and ate both sundaes. Rented out a restaurant that housed over 70 people after coming back from a deployment so I could spend time with all of my friends and family in one place. After having announced the event for over 3 weeks, nobody showed up. Having sat there for over 2 hours waiting, I got up and left. Nobody called or texted to cancel. I still think about that day. I bought a TV dinner and a bottle of wine for dinner. The cashier at the store laughed at me when I was checking out because that is all I bought. I once bought some lean cuisines, a bottle of wine, and an engagement card for a friend, and the coupon that popped out for me at the self-checkout was for cat food. Planned my birthday a week before and invited all my best friends to the mall to go eat and go bowling. I got there an hour early on the day and sat at our meeting spot. That's when I got the first text. Sorry, dude, can't come. Happy birthday. Then slowly one by one they all messaged me about the same thing. I was so mad and almost cried. When I calmed down, I got Starbucks and went to watch The Fault in Our Stars. I came home hoping for a surprise party or something, or maybe a dropped off gift. Nope, nothing. Hugging my pillow because I'm dying for a spoon. I do this as well. I bought a long pillow just for this. When I order 2 burritos at Chipotle I pull out my phone and pretend I'm reading what someone else wants on theirs. Sometimes I sit in my car and watch Netflix on my phone and eat them. My loneliest moment occurred about 2 years ago. It was during the summer and I had gotten 2 free tickets to go to the local Renaissance fair. I did the only thoughtful thing I could think of. I asked my girlfriend of several years if she wanted to go. She was a teacher and claimed that she was too busy preparing for the school year, so she kept stalling and gave me non-committal responses. I asked her if she wanted to go on Friday night. Saturday came and went. I asked again if she would be game to go for an hour or 2 on Sunday for something to do. They were free, so I didn't really care if we stayed for a short amount of time. She claimed again that she was too busy, even after I offered to come help her, and still didn't give me a firm answer. Sunday rolled around and I asked again. She gave me the same routine. It was too short notice to invite anyone else, so I ended up going to the fair by myself. While I was walking up to the admission gate to get in, I saw a younger couple getting ready to pay for their tickets. I still had an extra ticket, so I gave it to the couple. They seemed genuinely happy. The situation ignited an intense feeling of sadness. I spent an hour or 2 wandering around the fair alone. I wasn't happy and I knew it. Less than a week later, I was single by my own choosing. The saddest moment that has resulted from me living by myself these past 5 years was when I was at my parents' house playing Legos with my 4-year-old nephew. When it was time for me to leave I told him goodbye and he was all, "You're leaving? Yeah, Oliver. I have to go home." "Why? Who's missing you?" "Nobody, Oliver." I would get upset and vent at Cliver, but because I didn't want to bother my friends with my troubles. Also, the only Christmas card I ever get in the mail is from State Farm. Whenever I get it, it makes me feel pathetic since the holidays already bring me down. They usually make me cry because my insurance company is the only entity that bothered to spend $0.35 to say Merry Christmas. That's usually the lowest point of the year because I'm usually drunk from Halloween to Valentine's Day. I inadvertently sent a friend request on Facebook to the wrong person who happened to have the same name as the intended recipient. For whatever reason, that person accepted the request. This person and I have never interacted and don't live anywhere near each other. I now read all of her updates and follow her life story. I've cheered during both of her pregnancies. Felt scared when she had to deliver one child 2 months early. Cried when her husband was hurt in Afghanistan. And felt proud when she was accepted to medical school. I realized one day that I had invented a completely one-sided friendship with an online stranger, all while sitting at home, alone, in my pajamas. I went for a run to clear my head after a rough week at work and a fight with my ex. It started to rain. I ran too hard and had to lean on a fence to catch my breath, stop myself vomiting. A person walked by with their dog. The dog stopped and looked at me and gave a half wag with its tail and tilted its head quizzically as if to say, "You okay, bud?" I know I probably romanticized that moment, and actually the dog was just like bleh, hi, play, game, but in that brief moment it felt like the dog was the only living thing around me that week that bothered to actually look at me and actually give a crap. That was a very lonely moment, especially as the dog bounded away and I slowly walked back to my empty flat. Turned 30 years old while sitting by myself in a Denny's at midnight. I'm married with 3 kids. At least you got some peace and quiet. Created multiple AOL Instant Messenger screen names and logged them all in at the same time and went into chat rooms pretending to be a fun group of friends. My wife passed away a few years ago. One night after a lot of drinking and crying, I took one of her shirts, put it on a pillow and curled up with it. She was my best friend and I miss her every day. When I moved, I had a lonely period where I hadn't had anyone to have a conversation with for around a year. Ate food I knew I couldn't, so I'd have to go to the emergency room and staff there would see my details and someone would wish me a happy birthday. I ran into a stranger. They said, "Hey, I remember you. You were at that event wearing a steampunk hat. Good to see you again." That was the most interaction I'd gotten in a while, so I just went with it. We talked for 10 minutes about an event I never went to. I used to travel to Hawaii regularly for work. Sounds fun, but once you realize everyone is there with family or lovers and you are alone, it's the loneliest feeling I have ever felt. It wasn't much better that I didn't have anyone waiting for me at home either. When the delivery guy is dropping off my 2XLs and I have the TV on loud and I shout back from the door, "Get ready for pizza, guys." Oh, the shame. Lonely shame. 3 years ago, my wife of 8 years suddenly left me. After a few months of voluntary seclusion, I decided on one final hurrah to my loneliness. I took my wedding ring. Cost €900. Gold was worth about €200 and took it to a gold buyer. Sold the ring for exactly €29.95, leaving the gold buyer flabbergasted, of course. Then, I went to the liquor store across the road and bought a bottle of Johnny Walker $29.95. Went back home, closed all the curtains, locked my doors, played my depressing music playlist on repeat and turned off my telephone. But with all that done, I opened up the bottle and downed it in, about an hour or so. The rest of the night was spent crying drunkenly, freaking out, bashing my head into the wall and other such pleasantries. I have never felt as lonely as that night. The following day I woke up with a huge hangover, which passed in due time. I got on my motorcycle and drove to my parents for dinner. My period of seclusion now ended. Imagine life together with a girl on the bus just because she was pretty. Gilded my own comments so it looks like I'm popular. 2 weeks ago I went to an 11:15 p.m. showing of the final Hobbit movie. I was the only person in the theater. I spent 20 minutes finding the perfect seat and seriously contemplated asking them to pause the movie when I went to take a pee. Holy crap, that movie is long. As I walked out of the theater at almost 2 in the morning, there were no employees in sight. My car was the only one in the lot and a light snow had recently fallen and was completely untouched. As I was about halfway to my car, I turned around to look at the theater and all the frontage and interior lights were off. It looked almost like it had been closed all along. As a kid, I used to sit quietly in my room with my temple to the door handle. I was so alone. I sat hoping my parents would open the door and just knock me out. They didn't open the door. I was home alone on New Year's Eve. I was playing The Sims in complete darkness. I had a small get together with some other Sims. As the ball fell, I whispered, "Happy New Year," to myself. Well, in 6 months I'll have made it to 30 without ever being on a date, having a relationship or intercourse. There's that. I bought a Liverpool FC scarf because it has the team's motto "You'll never walk alone" knit on it. I'm not even a Liverpool fan. I just like to take it with me when I go on long midnight walks. I may be alone, but I've got a goddamn scarf with a badass liver bird on it, so who gives a frick? When I used to live by myself, I would prepare 2 plates of food and set one across from me at the table. I would pretend that someone was coming over and they were just running late. I felt less lonely that way. Just kidding. They were both for me. We have a winner. On my commute home one day around 15 years ago, I came across a Lhasa Apso mix that had been hit by a car and left for dead. No collar, no one looking for it. It was cute and kind, licking my hand when I came close, but its neck was broken and its back was broken in at least 2 places. No one was around, so I gently picked it up and brought it to the sidewalk. I was a paramedic at the time and had some tools on my belt, but I knew little of canine anatomy. As such, I was about to cross into virgin territory. I knew that I had to put the dog down. What I didn't know was what would be the best way to do that. I tried gently smothering it, but could not cover all of its mouth and nose with my hands. It was awkward, with weird angles everywhere. I next tried to use my Leatherman's pliers to close off its windpipe, and the poor little guy was even licking my hand while I did that. Unfortunately, that didn't work either. So, I took off my uniform shirt to get at my undershirt, which I then used for the smothering. It was heartbreaking, especially when I felt that little guy twitching, and then it was done. Shirtless, I looked all around me again. Not a soul in sight, not even a child on a bicycle. The pain and anguish of what I had just done was mine alone to bear. Even though I had done the right thing, it did not feel good. I wrapped it in my undershirt and took it home to bury it in the backyard. I left a note on a fence near where I found it, along with my phone number, but no one ever called. I don't even know what that sweet thing's name was. I spent a birthday crying into my own birthday cake that I had to bake for myself. My girlfriend left me several months ago, and ever since I've not really used my phone, not texting and stuff. Today I was looking through my contacts and realized I still had kisses next to her name. Sat for a solid few minutes trying to work out how to delete them whilst dwelling on what has been lost. I once spent Thanksgiving weekend by myself with a case of beer, 2 bottles of Jack, $80 in Chinese food, and I watched 30 Rock from beginning to end. Last week I spent a good 15 minutes having a conversation with a stuffed shark that culminated in me apologizing because there was no water in the room for him to swim in, before breaking into tears. I'm 21. This is the goodest fly boy. He will bring you 10 years of happiness in exchange for a like on this video. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.